New this hour, Congressman Suhas Subramanyam, who represents Virginia's 10th district. He's been vocal on issues of public safety, veterans care, and local governance.
Today, he's sharing some thoughts on some big stories we've been following this morning, including the recent shooting of Charlie Kirk. Congressman, first, we want to get your reaction, though, to this shooting. They've labeled it a politically motivated shooting. Just your reaction to this extreme violence.
I mean, it's absolutely horrific. There's no place for it in our country, in our world. And unfortunately, it's not an isolated incident. There's been a trend towards political violence, whether it was the state senators in Minnesota who were shot or, the governors in Michigan and Pennsylvania. And so even our own office received a threatening email recently, and we had to take action as well. And so we are really trying to stay vigilant on Capitol Hill. And I think long term, we have to figure out, one, how to make these events safer so that people feel they can come to a political event and feel safe. And two, what we can do to tone down the rhetoric on both sides, because frankly, it's gotten more and more heated, and there's been a correlation between that and the rise in political violence.
Congressman, you mentioned toning down rhetoric. We hear this all the time. In fact, we've been hearing this for a couple of years now, toning down the rhetoric. It has not happened. We have not seen that. So how do you, in your opinion, how do you tone down the rhetoric so we perhaps may not get to the point where people are doing these political assassinations, or at least attempting them, or making threats even?
Yeah, when things happen like this, the first thing we do is we have to come together. We have to acknowledge how terrible it is. We have to acknowledge that we need to fix this, that we need to move forward. I think, sometimes there's a tendency to be very angry at the other side for things that are happening, and, take that very, very personally to where, there's very negative and harmful things said about the other side. And so, I know, I debate Republicans all the time in Congress. I know they don't agree with some of the stuff I do, but in the end, we try to come together and see the humanity in each other. And so we in Congress and other elected officials and public figures have to be a good example. And then we have to bring our communities together and be uniters rather than dividers, especially in times like these.
Let's talk about what you are proposing, pushing for the 9/11 first responders, as far as and service members who reported for duty at the Pentagon on that awful day. Why do this?
Yeah, a lot of people know all about those who passed, as well as the first responders who were affected. Many people don't realize that many service members came to the Pentagon the next day and were exposed to toxins and asbestos and other really harmful things that ended up giving them chronic health conditions. And so, they served our country well. They showed up even in a very devastating time. They shouldn't have to pay the price health-wise. And so I want to make sure that those kinds of chronic illnesses that are results of what happened on 9/11 are covered and that they are taken care of, because they deserve the best, and especially given what happened and how they bravely came the next day and reported for duty.
All right, let's real quick address this issue. We're talking about what's going on in D.C., in Washington, D.C., with the federal takeover. Your reaction to this, Virginia's right across the border. We know that. What is your reaction and your perspective on this federal takeover and it moving and expanding potentially to other cities? We heard Memphis being mentioned as the next stop for the National Guard.
I think this is all a political maneuver, and it's not what's best for the city, what's best for visitors to Washington, D.C. Yes, there's crime. Crime was going down, but the real problem was crime prevention programs were not being fully funded by Congress, and even the police force wasn't being fully funded. We needed to fully fund, and still haven't funded, DC's budget. That's a much better, more efficient, more cost-effective way to address crime in DC, rather than sending the National Guard. And now they have legislation that they brought to my oversight committee about wanting line item veto power over all of DC's legislation. We're going to have individual members of Congress with more power than the mayor's office. And so I think this is wrong. It's overreach. And, I'm someone who supported statehood, but we don't even need to get there in order to just simply agree that we need to fully fund DC's budget and give it some level of autonomy so that the DC City Council can do its job.
Congressman, we appreciate you spending some time with us this morning here on WUSA 9. Thank you.
Thank you.